I was standing on a Shinkansen platform in Tokyo, waiting for the bullet train to Kyoto. I remember checking my watch, tapping my foot. My entire mind was already in Kyoto at the temples, the bamboo forest. The waiting, the travel itself felt like an obstacle. A 2-hour and 15-minute delay before my vacation could really start. Then I looked over. A few feet away, an older Japanese woman was sitting perfectly still on her small suitcase. She wasn't on her phone. She wasn't anxiously looking down the tracks. She had just unwrapped a small, beautiful bento box and was eating, slowly, deliberately, with complete focus. She wasn't waiting for her journey to begin. Her journey had already started. That's when it hit me. To me, this platform was just a pause. It was dead air. But to her, this in-between place, it was something else. It was part of the experience itself. It made me wonder, what if we've been thinking about the entire concept of moving all wrong? Okay, so let's unpack this a bit. That moment right there on the platform, it really highlights the core idea, doesn't it? That maybe the goal isn't just Kyoto, the destination. Maybe the platform itself, the moment we're actually in, is just as important.
Exactly.
So we're diving into how these concepts like present moment, awareness, stillness, and action, how they all intersect. We've got some really interesting sources here, blending deep philosophical ideas, especially from Eastern traditions, that really embrace, movement and impermanence. Iru and muju, right?
That's right. Iju for movement or transition, and muju for that larger sense of impermanence.
And then mixing that with practical stuff from meditation and even disciplines like martial arts. Our mission, I guess, for this deep dive is to figure out how we shift our view of life away from just being a race to some finish line.
And towards realizing that the journey is, it's always happening. And it's inherently rich right now.
Yeah.
That opening story you shared, it just hits the nail on the head. It's about recognizing you're already on a path, whether you like it or not, whether you even notice it.
Like the woman with the bento box.
Precisely. She claimed that moment. She was living that journey within the journey. It connects deeply to those principles, Iji and Muju. Because the only time we actually have to live, to grow, to feel, to change, it's always this specific fleeting moment.
Not the moment we're waiting for.
Never the moment we're waiting for. That difference between you checking your watch, thinking about Kyoto,
right,
her eating her bento, that's everything. When we're constantly rushing towards some future thing, we are, by definition, missing our actual life.
So we need to really get into the difference between just constantly driven by what's next.
And truly being, being anchored in the now.
Right. Okay. So here's where it gets really interesting, I think. Especially for, people like us, people listening who maybe pride themselves on being efficient, productive. We tend to treat life like this relentless obstacle course, where the value of now, like the time on the train, waiting in traffic, prepping for a meeting, it's only measured by how fast it gets us to the next thing, the prize, the completed project, the weekend, whatever.
Their future reward.
Yeah. So what's the fundamental shift, like the immediate psychological change we need to make to reframe that waiting time, that dead air, as something, it's something vital?
Well, the shift isn't about learning some complex new technique, It's about fundamentally changing the relationship we have with our own attention. The standard definition of mindfulness is usually given as paying attention in a particular way, on purpose, in the present moment, and non-judgmentally.
Right, I've heard that.
And it sounds simple, but the profound part, the part that's really tricky, is the non-judgmental piece. That's where the paradox comes in.
How so? What's the paradox?
The paradox is that we often try to use mindfulness to get something. We want relaxation or less stress or maybe some kind of spiritual insight.
Which sounds like a reasonable goal.
It does. But the moment you start trying to achieve a specific result with your mindfulness, you've actually broken that non-judgmental contract. You've brought future ambition right back into the present moment.
Ah, okay. So you're judging the moment based on whether it's delivering the relaxation you want.
Exactly. Instead, this kind of intentional, truly non-judgmental attention. It just nurtures awareness, clarity, acceptance of what is right now, because our lives only unfold in these moments, singular moments.
And if we're mostly checked out, thinking about the past or future,
then we're missing the raw material of our existence. We're literally blind to the possibilities for change, for transformation, that only show up when we're actually still enough to notice them.
So what's the cost then? If we're not present, what's the like the real psychological downside. It sounds like more than just missing nice moments.
Oh, the cost is much higher than just regret. It's because we ignore the richness, the reality of the present. We end up defaulting to automatic, unconscious actions. Our behavior gets driven by all this accumulated baggage.
Baggage like old fears,
Yeah.
future worries.
Exactly. Deep fears from past stuff or maybe completely unrealistic fantasies about the future. And this isn't just passive baggage. It accumulates silently. It becomes like a filter, coloring every single new experience we have.
It's like walking around wearing someone else's glasses, you mean? Distorting everything you see.
That's a perfect analogy.
Yeah.
And what's more, this lack of awareness leads us to this really critical, often dangerous assumption
Yeah.
that whatever we happen to be thinking right now, our internal story, our opinions, our gut reactions, that is the absolute truth.
Ooh. Yeah.
When we operate unconsciously, we basically lock ourselves into our own little fiction. We think we know who we are, where we're going, but we're actually just wrapped up in thoughts about things that are gone or haven't happened yet.
Yeah.
And that inertia, it stops us from ever really touching the fullness of what's possible now. It really limits our resilience, our ability to adapt to Muji, to that constant change.
It sounds like the whole practice, whether you call it meditation or just mindful living, it really boils down to something almost radical, especially today. Just the simple act of stopping.
It is radical because the core challenge isn't really to organize your life better or manage it or optimize it. It's simply, can you come to a full and complete stop, even for just this moment?
We're so trained to be in doing mode.
Constantly. Meditation asks us to shift, even just for a breath, into being mode. You sort of take the perspective of an impartial witness, observing the moment exactly as it is, without any hidden agenda to fix it or improve it or even analyze it.
That old joke comes to mind. Don't just do something, sit there.
It nails it. But, this idea of just stopping, it often clashes with our desire to achieve things, right? Which brings us back to that principle you mentioned, this is it. I think a lot of people approach presence hoping for some big breakthrough.
Yeah, like expecting a special feeling or a sudden personality upgrade.
And that expectation is the single biggest hurdle. People might start practicing meditation to relax or break a habit or handle stress, and those are all fine reasons to start. But they become a problem the moment you expect those results to show up on your personal timetable.
You get caught up looking for the special state, checking if you feel better yet.
Exactly. You're looking for signs of progress instead of just being with what is.
Okay, but here's a question then. This idea, this radical acceptance that this is it, doesn't that kind of contradict ambition or striving for change? If I fully accept my messy, imperfect present, where does the motivation come from to, say, improve myself or even fight for important changes in the world? Isn't acceptance just giving up?
That is the crucial point, the real friction. And it's a vital distinction to make. Acceptance doesn't mean passivity. It's not resignation. It means clearly, fully acknowledging that what is happening is happening. It's the non-negotiable starting point.
You can't change something if you don't first accept that it exists as it is.
Precisely. If you want to go anywhere or develop yourself or change something externally, you can only take a conscious step from where you are actually standing right now. Real progress needs clarity. And you can't have clarity if you're constantly fighting your present reality or lost in some future fantasy.
So trying to force things is often counterproductive.
Often, yes. In many ways, the most effective path to genuine progress, whether internal or external, is to let go of the desperate trying to get somewhere else. Just fully inhabit the step you are taking right now. Paradoxically, once you truly accept this is it, you become free to act with real intention because all that energy you were using to fight reality is now available. And that clarity, that freedom, leads us right into this fascinating paradox of non-doing, which I think directly answers that question about how stillness works within an active life. How do we, immersed in deadlines, responsibilities, constant demands, how do we reconcile this idea of stopping with, everything we have to do?
Yeah, it feels like the ultimate clash of cultures, almost. We're constantly told our value is in our output, right, what we do. So if we stop or if we try to adopt this non-doing idea, the fear is we'll just be seen as lazy, inefficient, passive.
And that's such a deep, fundamental misunderstanding, particularly maybe in Western culture. Non-doing is actually the opposite of being passive or lazy. It takes tremendous courage, real focused energy to cultivate non-doing, both when you're sitting still and maybe even more importantly when you're in the middle of activity.
So it's not about not doing things.
Not at all. Our culture puts such a high premium on measurable doing, on visible progress, that the concept of, say, active stillness or effort flowing without strain. It becomes philosophically hard to even grasp.
Yeah.
But the core wisdom of non-doing is this deep recognition. Nothing else needs to happen for this moment to be absolutely complete.
Okay.
While at the exact same time holding this keen awareness that yes, something else surely will happen, the next moment will arrive. It's about being completely full and present in this moment without being rigidly fixed or demanding it stay the same.
That really shifts how you relate to your own efforts, doesn't it? It sounds like the goal isn't maximum push, but more like an elegant, effortless effort.
That is the paradox, perfectly realized. It's that state of flow, what some call effortless activity or maybe even doerless doing. Non-doing absolutely can and maybe should arise within action itself.
How does that happen? When does action become effortless?
It happens when the inward stillness of the person doing the action merges so completely with the outward activity that the action just seems to unfold by itself. There's no sense of forcing it or fighting the circumstances. And really importantly, there's no little voice in your head claiming ownership.
No, I did this, or this is mine.
Exactly. No I, me, or mine grabbing the credit for success or assigning blame if things go wrong. The ego kind of steps aside.
You see that in masters of any skill, right? Musicians, athletes, surgeons. The person almost disappears into the task itself.
It's the common thread in all mastery. And the most classic, maybe the most vivid description of this comes from the Taoist sage Chuang-Tzu in that famous story about Prince Wan Hui's cook.
Oh, the ox-cutting story.
That's the one. The prince sees his cook carving up an ox with this incredible, almost dance-like grace and speed. He's amazed, praises the skill. But the cook's response is key. He says, essentially, skill, method. What I follow now is the Tao of the way it's beyond all methods.
Right. We should probably spend a moment unpacking what he described, because it really shows that journey from trying hard to, well, not trying. How did he get from seeing a giant ox to moving beyond method?
His explanation tracks the development of mastery beautifully. He talks about 3 stages. First, when he just started, all he saw was the whole ox, a big, solid, intimidating mass. That's the stage of high effort, probably awkwardness fighting the material.
Stage 1.
Struggle, right. Then, he said after 3 years, he no longer saw the whole ox. He only saw the distinctions, the parts, the joints, the natural separations. That's stage 2. Skilled technique. Effort is focused, efficient, but still definitely present.
Stage 2. Competence.
Exactly. But then he says, now after years more, he sees nothing with the eye. His physical eye is basically idle. His senses are just gathering background data. His spirit, he says, is free to move.
Sees nothing with the eye. So the task is so deeply internalized, he's guided by this inner intuitive sense of the structure. Pure instinct.
Pure instinct, moving along the natural lines of what is. He says his cleaver lasted 19 years, still sharp as new, because it never hit bone or tough ligaments. It always found the hidden space, the gap. The internal stillness allowed for that incredibly precise, fluid outward action. This is really a core expression of that movement philosophy in Japanese culture, that effective idu, effective movement, arises from internal quietude.
But even when he was in that state of perfect flow, he described something else, didn't he? A moment where he deliberately stopped.
Yes. And this is absolutely vital for our deep dive. The cook explained that sometimes he would encounter a tough spot, a difficult joint. Think of it like hitting an unexpected obstacle in life. When he hit that resistance, he didn't just power through. He didn't rely on speed or force. He said he would slow right down, watch the challenging part very closely, barely move the blade, and then, and this is the key, before moving on, he would stand still for a moment. Just stand there, savoring the successful navigation, letting the joy of the work sink in.
Wow. That act of stopping, of absorbing the moment, even within a high-skill, high-speed activity, that's the link. That's the connection between the action and the presence. It's like a mindful transition built right in.
It absolutely connects the outer skill to the inner state. Prince Wan Hui got it immediately. He declared, "This is it. My cook has shown me how I ought to live my own life." It shows that mastery isn't about just perpetual motion. It's about this elegant dance between effort and rest, action and awareness. It's about constantly, flexibly adapting to the present reality, the changing nature, the mood of the task, guided by an inner stillness that doesn't get rattled.
That story of the master chef, it just bridges that gap so perfectly, doesn't it? Between the sort of internal philosophy and the actual physical mastery. So, okay, let's bring us down to earth. From the abstract to the applied. What does this idea of stillness in motion mean for us? Just trying to cope with daily life, with stress, with all the transitions we go through. It sounds like it really demands we intentionally practice integrating these principles, maybe even physically.
Absolutely. And we see these principles fully baked into disciplines like Japanese martial arts, JMA, things like judo, aikido, karate. There was a really interesting study looking at practitioners, quite a range of people, ages 21 to 62, but with an average of like 16 years of consistent training.
Wow, that's dedication.
It is. And the study confirmed what many practitioners feel intuitively, that JMA training acts as a seriously effective coping mechanism for stress, and it significantly boosts overall well-being.
So the benefits aren't just a side effect, they're kind of the point.
You could say that. The training goes way beyond just getting fit or learning self-defense. Engaging in JMA inherently builds things like discipline, self-assurance, resilience. And those are crucial tools for navigating the mujo, the constant change of modern life. It offers real self-improvement and stress relief because of how the training is structured. The community helps too, of course, but the real power lies in the specific activities they do.
Okay, tell us more about those. How do things like the forms they practice or the sparring, how do they translate into this inner stillness?
Well, take kaita, which are the prearranged forms or sequences of movements. To do a kaita correctly, you need such intense focus on the exact moment, your balance, your breath, the precise execution of the movement, that perfect ED. Your mind simply doesn't have space to drift off into worrying about the past or planning the future.
Your attention is totally captured by the action itself.
Completely. And that intense focus becomes this powerful way to facilitate self-reflection. You're moving towards self-mastery through the physical form. Your body's doing something very deliberate, very rehearsed, but your mind has to stay open, ready, embodying that idea from the cook, seeing nothing with the eye, just responding.
And then there's randori, the free sparring. Yeah. That must demand an even higher level of presence, right? Because you don't know what the other person will do.
Oh, absolutely. It's the ultimate application of effortless activity under pressure. If you try to force a move, if you rely on aggression or thinking too much about your strategy, you fail. Instantly.
You have to just react.
But not even react in the usual sense. It has to be more like immediate, non-reactive intuition. The action needs to be truly doerless. It's a response that emerges naturally from that place of inner stillness, not some assertion of your ego trying to win. The physical interaction becomes this immediate, often unforgiving mirror for your internal state.
Any hesitation, any overthinking, and your opponent takes advantage.
Exactly. Which relentlessly pushes the practitioner towards that state of pure, non-doing presence.
Okay, so even if, joining a dojo isn't on the cards for everyone tomorrow, we can still tap into these states. You mentioned using natural metaphors like the mountain and the lakes to kind of anchor our awareness.
Yes, those are incredibly powerful because they resonate with something deep within us, our innate understanding of endurance and depth. Think about the mountain meditation. The mountain is just this ultimate symbol of stability, of strength, right?
Yeah, solid and moving.
So as we practice, we mentally connect with that stability. The mountain just sits there, simply being itself, while all the inner weather, our thoughts, our worries, our emotions just flows across it. The mountain withstands storms, clouds of doubt, sunshine. It doesn't matter. It remains constant underneath. It teaches us that we, too, have this essential, unmoving core of presence beneath the surface turbulence.
And the lake meditation offers a slightly different perspective on that same idea.
It does. The lake meditation asks us to identify with the whole body of water. Imagine this vast, deep reservoir of awareness beneath the surface. When life gets busy or stressful, the surface of our mind lake gets choppy, right? Ripples of thought, reflections flashing everywhere.
Definitely. Sometimes feels like a storm.
Exactly. But even when the surface is chaotic, the deep water below remains fundamentally still. Maybe some gentle undulations, but mostly calm. So by identifying with the entire lake, from the still depths all the way up to the choppy surface, we practice holding all of it, the calm and the chaos, in awareness. Just like the lake is held by the earth, accepting whatever weather comes.
And then to really bridge stillness and our everyday movement, there's walking meditation. You said it's often called stillness in motion.
It is, and it's probably the most accessible way to integrate this into daily life. The practice is straightforward. Just be fully present with the actual physical sensations of walking. You can do it slowly, deliberately, or even at a normal pace. But the key is heightened internal attention.
Paying attention to your feet, your balance.
Yes. Watching your step, feeling the weight shift, the movement in your legs and feet, the lift, the landing, the commitment of your weight onto the foot.
I remember finding that idea really powerful, that walking, especially if the ground isn't perfectly smooth, is actually a really complex demand on our presence.
It absolutely is. On a perfectly flat sidewalk, sure, we can zone out, but walking itself always unfolds moment by unique moment. Think about hiking on a rocky path, or even just walking on uneven grass. You are constantly solving the problem of balance and weight distribution differently with every single step.
You can't just automate it.
Not really, not if you want to stay upright. Yeah. Taking a step on rough ground is this delicate, moment-to-moment dance of balance. You have to intentionally commit your full weight to one foot, be fully present with that, and then consciously let go as the next foot finds its place. This constant micro-level attention to edu, to movement and placement is why walking meditation is such a fantastic way to ground yourself right back into the flow of life, right here, right now.
So everything we've been talking about, from the Shinkansen platform, the chef, the dojo, the walking, it seems like it's not just about setting aside time for formal practice, is it? It's really about weaving this awareness into the fabric of everyday life, especially into those moments we usually ignore, the in-between times that actually make up most of our day. And that sounds like it requires something you called voluntary simplicity.
Voluntary simplicity is a really profound choice, especially today. It feels almost countercultural. It's this conscious, purposeful decision to push back against that relentless pressure from society, from technology, to fill every single second with, well, with something. Consumption, stimulation, activity, information.
Like Thoreau's advice, simplify, simplify.
That quote perfectly captures it, maybe even more so now than in his time, with the constant digital noise and information overload we face.
But how do you actually do that in the 21st century without, ditching everything and moving to a cabin in the woods? For the ambitious people listening, simplifying can feel a lot like retreating or giving up.
Right, and the goal isn't necessarily literal isolation. It's about bringing heightened intention to our choices. It means deliberately trying to do only one thing at a time and really being there for it.
Single tasking, basically.
Yes. And practically, that might look like choosing to go fewer places on a Saturday so you can actually see more and experience more depth where you do go. Or maybe scheduling less, doing fewer things so you can do more of what genuinely matters to you. Acquiring less stuff so you can have more mental space, more focus, more time.
So it could be things like digital minimalism, choosing when you check your phone, resisting the urge to multitask constantly.
Absolutely. Resisting that urge to, say, fold laundry while listening to something complex that requires your full attention. It's about creating a kind of inner ecology where you recognize that every choice about your attention has a real, immediate impact on your mental state, your sense of presence.
And speaking of connections and attention, you mentioned focusing on the transitions between activities, the moments we usually just rush through, maybe checking email or thinking about the next meeting.
Mindful transitions. They're so important because that's exactly where the mindless automatic behavior loves to creep in. It's like the gap between conscious actions. It could be something as simple as being fully present with the act of closing a door.
Closing a door.
Yeah. Not slamming it, not doing it automatically while thinking about something else, but using that small action to deepen your sensitivity, to consciously close one space or activity before committing your attention to the next. The reason this small stuff matters is because the same autopilot mode we use for closing doors. It can easily take over during life's huge transitions.
Like changing careers, or relationships ending, or even bigger things.
Exactly. Even how we approach aging or eventually dying. Practicing presence in these tiny everyday transitions helps smooth out those deep grooves of habitual unconsciousness. It prepares us, in a way, for handling life's unavoidable, major moments of mudra, of impermanence, with more awareness and grace.
Okay, so the ultimate, let's call it high-pressure environment for practicing this sustained non-doing, this mindful presence, has got to be family life, right? Especially parenting.
Oh, parenting. Yes. In many ways, it is the ultimate non-negotiable retreat. Some wisdom traditions actually encourage parents to see their children not just as dependents, but as personal Zen masters.
Little Zen master.
Yeah, like these private teachers who parachute into your life with the sole mission of pushing every single one of your buttons, challenging all your limits, and basically demanding constant selflessness, patience, and loving kindness.
An 18-year intensive course in radical self-improvement with basically zero holidays.
And nowhere to hide. It demands constant acts of non-reaction. It forces you to try to be mindful amidst noise and chaos, to look squarely at your own triggers, your attachments, your impatience. It's this high-pressure situation where the goal isn't perfection, but using the intense, relentless challenges as immediate opportunities for growth, for resilience, for transformation. You have to practice doerless doing in parenting, because if you try to impose perfect, rigid control, you'll just burn out.
Which brings us to that really relatable everyday story you mentioned, the cat food lesson. This seems like a perfect way to dissect how our own internal narratives, that selfing process, gets in the way of just being present with others.
Yes, the cat food dishes. It's such a simple domestic example, but it's a fantastic case study in how a minor annoyance can instantly balloon into real anger and hurt. And it happens because of this immediate unconscious tendency towards selfing.
Okay. Walk us through that. What exactly is selfing? What's the mind doing in that moment? You see the dirty dishes in the sink.
Selfing is the mind's incredibly fast, almost instantaneous habit of constructing a fixed personal identity, a self, and weaving a whole narrative around a fleeting, often impersonal event.
Okay, so stage one.
Stage one,
Yeah.
the trigger and the initial impulse. You see the dirty dishes. The thought isn't neutral, like, oh, the dishes are dirty. It immediately becomes personal. Ugh, I always have to do this, or why didn't they do this?
Right, the blame starts.
Then stage two, the construction of my problem. The mind takes ownership. It's no longer just dirty dishes, it's my problem. And then it starts building this whole story, often based on past resentments or future worries. This proves they don't respect me, or if they can't even do this simple thing, what does that mean for our relationship? Or maybe projecting into the future, this means I'll always be the one. This story justifies the anger that's starting to bubble up. It justifies feeling personally hurt.
And stage three.
Stage three, the justification and inflation of anger. The self that the mind just constructed feels attacked or burdened and becomes righteous. I'm definitely right here and they are wrong. This is the point where we totally lose presence. We're completely lost in the self-created drama, defending the integrity of this fragile, temporary sense of me.
So the key insight here is that the self we're defending,
Yeah.
it isn't actually some solid, permanent thing being attacked. It's more like just a pattern, a construct the mind keeps building.
Exactly. If you can manage to watch this whole process unfold with some non-judgmental awareness, you start to see that the self you feel so strongly about defending isn't a fixed entity. It's more like this weird, shifting pattern of thoughts and feelings in the mind. It's a mechanism desperately trying to create stability and certainty in a universe that is fundamentally constantly changing, impermanent. Realizing that the self is also impermanent, that it's constructed moment by moment, is actually incredibly freeing. It means you can stop taking yourself and your reactions quite so seriously.
So the mindful practice, then, isn't about arguing about the dishes or even figuring out who was right. It's about stopping that whole internal escalation.
Yes. You try to catch the process earlier, maybe halt it at stage one. You notice the impulse towards making it personal, towards selfing as it arises. When that temptation comes up, they did this to me. You consciously stop the story. You might acknowledge, okay, maybe they just forgot. Maybe they got distracted. It probably wasn't about me at all.
And the practical response?
Radically simple. Either just clean the dishes in that moment without the internal drama, or decide to leave them and walk away. But you deliberately refuse to fuel that self-involved, angry thought pattern. This intentional stopping, even in small things, becomes this powerful way to free yourself from those old, limiting, self-centered habits. It lets you actually be present with people rather than stuck in friction about them. Hashtag tag outro. And if we tried to tie all these different threads together, now the woman on the platform, the effortless cook, the mountain, the lake, even the messy cat dishes, if we connect them to the really big picture, what all these practices and perspectives seem to point towards is this one deep fundamental realization: interconnectedness.
Everything affects everything else.
Exactly. Everything is related, and everything is in constant flux, constantly changing mood. So much of our struggle, our anxiety, our conflict in life seems to come from letting our thinking isolate things, making a dirty dish or a delayed train or a personal setback into this absolutely separate, fixed, permanent problem. But it's our way of seeing our thinking that creates and then defends that illusion of separation.
And so the deep realization, maybe for you listening, is that finding wholeness, finding well-being, it's not about chasing some perfect spiritual destination out there or waiting for some lightning bolt of transformation inside. It's simpler. It's about attending to the life that's already here, the vitality, the reality that exists in every single moment, even the difficult ones, even the boring ones.
It brings to mind that image of the true master, the one who travels without ever needing to move. Lao Tzu put it so beautifully. The heavy is the root of the light. The unmoved is the source of all movement. Thus, the master travels all day without leaving home.
Staying anchored in stillness.
Anchored in their own stillness. Because if you let yourself get constantly blown around by internal restlessness, by regrets about the past or anxieties about the future, you lose touch with that quiet, unmoved root within yourself, the source.
So ultimately, this whole deep dive suggests that the journey to being truly well, truly fully alive, isn't about becoming someone else or getting somewhere else. It's simply about the willingness to step out of that tyranny of past and future, to fully commit to residing in the depth, the reality of the life you are already leading right now.